What's up, awesome life seekers? Jeff Lerner here, and in this video, we are going to talk about how to sell more stuff by doing less selling. Counterintuitive as that sounds, it's exactly how the world works. Probably not surprising. You probably know from your own experience that you love to buy stuff. Literally, you love to buy stuff because you get a dopamine hit when you do, but you hate being sold. And so we're going to flip that and be on the other side of it and say, well, how do I sell more without feeling like I'm selling? So actually by doing less overt selling. Rand Fishkin, who you may or may not know, if you're in my world and you're a dorky digital marketer, you probably definitely know who that is. He's the CEO and founder of SEO Moz. You gotta start videos with a quote, right? You gotta establish some gravitas to the conversation by quoting a quotable person. Rand Fishkin said, "The best way to sell something is don't sell anything. Earn the awareness, respect, and trust of those who might buy." Now, admittedly, this is from somebody whose business, at least at the time that he said that, was built around providing SEO tools to the market, search engine optimization tools. And at the time that he was providing those tools, the SEO algorithm, i.e. how Google ranked sites, was very built around producing lots of content. Lots of blogs and videos, and so it stands to reason that someone in that business has a vested interest in creating a worldview that says, oh, I need to produce a lot of content so that I can become known and I can become respected and I can be the authority. It may be a little biased for him to say that, because the more he convinces people in the world that they need to put a lot of content out there and establish authority for themselves, the more tools he's going to sell. So is it just a self-promoting idea for him to say, or is it the actual truth of how the world works? That is what this video is going to dig into. If that sounds exciting to you, go ahead and like the video if you don't mind. That'll help me get more love and favor in the YouTube algorithm and get these messages out to more people. Even subscribe to the channel. If you've seen my other videos and you already know that you dig what I do, then I would love if you'd subscribe to the channel and make sure to click the little bell so you get notified as new videos come out. And without further ado, let's dig into the question, how to sell more by doing less selling. Yes, I have found this to be totally true, and I'm not the only one. So really what I'm going to do in this video, I kind of feel like a story, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. I feel like a story is worth 1,000,000 words. If you know great examples of people who embody concepts, it makes it a lot easier to apply those concepts and to invest in and believe in those concepts so that you'll actually put them to use in your life. So I'm going to share with you a few stories of people who are amazing salespeople who never seem to be selling anything. First of all, I'm going to start with a guy named Jeffrey Lynn Steininger Jr. Jeffrey Steininger Jr. Surely you've heard of young Jeffrey Steininger Jr. His company's worth $1.5 billion now. And you may not know him though as Jeffrey Lynn Steininger Jr. You might know him better as Jeffree Star. He's a YouTuber who founded Jeffree Star Cosmetics, which, as I said, is now worth $1.5 billion. Jeffrey Lynn Steininger Jr. clearly knows a thing or two about selling. He's built a $1.5 billion cosmetics company with virtually no traditional advertising. Literally, it's been all him putting content out to the world. And yet, if you go watch his content, which is easy to do because he's got a YouTube channel that's got, I think, 18 million subscribers now. Jeffree Star, Jeffree. We'll put that in the link below or on the screen or something. He's never really selling anything. He talks about his stuff a lot. He's really passionate and excited about his stuff. And he gives a ton of value to people. Value's, a pretty key word for this whole conversation. But he never really sells stuff. He certainly never gets in your face and closes anything. How could he? He's just on a screen. If he got too annoying, you could turn him off. So Jeffree Star is a great example of someone who sells a ton of products without ever really selling anything. If you go research his channel, It's actually pretty telling. And he doesn't have every video that he ever created on his YouTube channel, but he does have a lot. They go back, I think the oldest video on there was like 10 or 11 years old. And you can kind of see his evolution. And again, he's taken a lot of the older stuff off, but you can see his evolution of just working through his own personal stuff, connecting with people, being relatable. I would say being inspiring, because a lot of the stuff that he grappled with is stuff that other people connected to. How has he been selling? You know, and I compare him to like the frustrated, typical, like middle-aged, forgive the stereotype, but like a middle-aged white guy salesperson, like the Glengarry Glen Ross type of sales guy who's just sitting there. He's like, why don't the leads convert? Why don't they call me back? Why don't they sign on the line that is dotted? Why can't I close the deal? And they're so like aggressive and almost like military, like a sale is like a hill that you need to conquer and plant your flag in and dominate. Anybody that's gonna buy from you is a person. They're a human being. They're just as muddied and conflicted and messy and emotional and unstable and unpredictable as you are. So you can't try to create a predictable outcome with a unidirectional, like bully type method. You have to be soft. You have to be human. At the end of the day, it's about being human, right? And so the way that you sell less, to me, is you connect more. And that's where, you know, Rand Fishkin, he said awareness, trust, and to be liked, to have awareness and to be trusted. The common acronym is KLT, known, liked, and trusted. You'll see like on Facebook, there's people doing videos about how to up your KLT factor, your know, like, and trust factor. At the end of the day, it's just about connecting and being human and being real with people. Before Jeffree Star started doing cosmetics on YouTube, he was a MySpace musician, and he was one of the biggest musicians on MySpace. And the thing that you can say about Jeffree Star, or you could also say about like a Lady Gaga, for example, is they are known and they are trusted because they are so fully themselves. And this is what I have found, is that the people, and this is frankly why really successful people that do sell a lot, very often they also have a lot of enemies. They have a lot of haters because they are putting themselves out there in a way that is real and it is knowable. You can't be known. If they say you have to be known, liked, and trusted, you can't be known unless you're real. If you have some fake version of yourself that you put out there that's like, hidden with you got your three-piece suit and you got your Rolex and you got your style and your perfect hair, like the American Psycho vibe going on. And you go in there and you're gonna close the $1 billion deal and you're not even in the room. You've got some artifice that you create for the purpose of going in and taking other people's money. And you send him in the room for you because your scared little boy self has actually never even left the house that morning. How can anybody know you? You want to be known, put yourself out there in a way that is scary, in a way that is vulnerable, in a way that's exposed. You've got enough of the wound of life open to the world that if somebody wanted to jab something in, they could and it would hurt. But at the same time, wounds need air to heal, right? And so by letting it breathe, you create personal growth, but more importantly for the sales conversation, you create a connection, you create relatability. More than anything, here's what you create. You create, remember, it's known, liked, and respect. You create a liking and you create a respect factor because when you put yourself out there, you're doing something that most people respect because they know that they've stopped themselves from doing it. It's the same reason we watch athletes. Why do we really watch athletes? Why do we watch the Olympics? How come every 4 years we get really interested in a sport that we've never played, we might never even have heard of, and for the next 4 years we won't care a lick about? It's because we've got people front and center who have done a thing with their life that is so all in, that is so scary, that is so deeply committed beyond anything that most of us have ever done with our lives, that we can't help but like and respect what we see. What was her name? Simone Biles? I still know the name. She was the gymnastics girl from 2 years ago or whatever it was. I just know the name, and I like her and I respect her, even though I know nothing about her, just because she put herself out there in a way that is so bold. Same thing Jeffree Star does online. Same thing Lady Gaga did when she was getting started. And I'm not saying it has to involve cosmetics, and I'm not saying it has to involve sports. I'm saying it has to involve real vulnerability, or else people won't respond to it, especially in the day and age we live in. Nobody wants to be sold by a salesperson. People want to buy from a human being. And Jeffree Star is not the only example of this. Gary Vaynerchuk, the guy's got a $250 million digital marketing agency. The guy does digital strategy for Fortune 500 companies. How? Why? For 6 years, the guy was putting himself on YouTube every day doing wine tastings and talking about wine for Wine Library TV. If you don't know how Gary Vee actually got his start, he grew his parents' liquor store. He took it over, right out of high school, I think. Grew his parents' liquor store in his early 20s, and then he started doing these wine tastings or having this wine conversation on YouTube. He did it for 6 years. And he built up this massive following because he was giving value, he was being himself, and he was sharing his passion with the world. And eventually, people started going, man, this guy, I like this guy. In fact, they were like, well, what else can we do with this guy? What else can we buy from this guy? How else can this guy, give us value so that we can give him money? And this opportunity manifested for him to create an agency, to get involved in startups, to become one of the highest paid speakers in the world, to do all this stuff simply because he got himself known, liked, and trusted. Well, Gary Vee is a guy that you have never heard close a sale. You've never heard Gary Vee work through, explicit objection handling and do trial closes and get to yes and ultimately ask people if they want to, if that'll be Visa or MasterCard and to sign here. And you've never heard Gary Vee close anything, and yet the guy has hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars flowing through his personal economy. How? He's a great example of a guy who sells like a freight train without ever actually doing any selling. He gives value. He puts himself out there. A lot of people don't like Gary Vee, but nobody can say they don't like him because they think he's phony. Nobody can say they don't like him because they think he's fake. They don't like him because he's so unapologetically himself. The people that don't like him, that's why they don't like him. The people that do like him, that's why they like him. Putting yourself out there unapologetically and authentically and vulnerably is how you sell without selling. Now, the opening quote was Rand Fishkin talking about how you do it through content, through a lot of like optimized content, whether it's blog writing or video marketing, stuff that maybe doesn't even necessarily require you to be on camera like this. I know that's a big hang up for a lot of people. You can do a lot with words. In fact, the only reason anybody watches my videos is because of the words. It's not because of my good looks. It's not because I have some amazing backdrop. It's not because we have world-class special effects or computer generated animation or whatever. It's just because of the words. I come up with some words to say. I mean, it doesn't really matter whether you write them or you speak them. Words are the power. Use words to find yourself, and then use words to display yourself to the world, and watch what happens. Eventually, you'll have the power to sell without ever actually having to engage in, quote, salesmanship. Maya Angelou said, nobody ever became poor by giving. The more you give, I promise you, the more you receive. But you have to be giving authentically, and you have to be giving of yourself. What I found is, at least in the modern world, it doesn't really work to try to give like this. Take it. Don't look at me. I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be known, but just take my thing. That doesn't work. You give like this. You give openly. You give of yourself plus whatever you have to offer. And when you lean into that approach, the sales will just happen. And the final thing I want to say about all this, about this approach to selling that's based on giving value and giving of yourself. A lot of people hear, they think of this idea of like, well, how do I sell without selling? Okay, I need to not sell. I need to do like anti-sales, right? Okay, so I need to shut up and just let it happen. No, don't shut up. When we say how to sell without selling, we don't mean how to sell without communicating or without talking or without writing. The idea is to find other things to speak and write and project about other than just asking for the sale. Again, I'm going to reiterate what I just said. A lot of people, when you say, oh, you need to sell, you'll sell more by selling less. You're selling. You sound like you're selling. Don't sell. Don't be selling. They like clam up. Maybe that's an okay initial response because as a young salesperson, they're like, I gotta sell. And suddenly somebody tells you not to sell and you're like, okay, I guess I should just not talk. That's not actually what we mean though. What we mean is you actually want to share more. You want to communicate more. You want to connect more, but just not be asking for the sale, not be closing. I know they say always be closing. I promise in the modern world, always be closing. You know, Gary Vee's book said it. Jab, 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 then the right hook. Always be communicating, always be giving value. Why does Jeff create so many videos? Because that's how you do it. Less selling doesn't mean less communicating. It means more. How can you be known if you don't put yourself out there? How can you be liked if you don't connect? How can you be trusted if you don't offer anything? So, well, okay, Jeff, well, if I'm not supposed to sell, what do I talk about? Well, in fairness, if somebody if you're on the car lot and you're trying to sell cars and somebody says, don't sound like you're selling, stop selling. And suddenly you're like, well, I have nothing to say. That's a very good indicator that you were going to be a very bad salesperson if you talked. In fact, in that case, it's actually better to just not talk and let the people who are going to buy anyways just be the ones that buy. Because if all you have to say is closes and selling and stuff you read in a sales book, then you're just going to scare those people off too, right? Just stop talking. But if you'd like to get better still, learn to speak or write or whatever your communication medium is about your values and about your value. That is the thing that I have learned in my journey, is the more I talk about my values and the more I talk about my value, the more, it may take longer, but the happier people are and the more business with me that they want to do. So my values are the things I believe. You know, Simon Sinek in his amazing TED Talk and his amazing book, both of which are called Start With Why, talks about ultimately people do business with people that believe what they believe, right? Your values are how you let people know what you believe. If you're selling minivans on a car lot and you have the value that everything in a mom's life should make her job of rearing children, which is the most important job at the center of any family, it should make that job as easy as possible. But everything else that everyone around a mom does should be about creating systems and creating a support mechanisms for the mom to be able to do her job as effectively as possible. And this car reflects those values. I'm talking about, man, when you pull up and you put it into park and you hit this little button right here, you don't even have to move your hand from the gear shift. Your hand's on the gear shift, you put it in park, and then right there's just a little button you tap, and that door slides open so your kids can get out. I don't know about you, but I know that I have so much respect for moms. I love that there is an automobile that can take one little task out of your life of having to get out of the car and go around and open the door for your kids, risk getting hit in traffic, risk the car getting rear-ended by being stopped longer than it needed to be. I love there's this little button in this car that can make your job as a mom a little easier. That's why I love selling this car, because I believe that moms have it hard enough, and then anything the rest of us can do to make it a little easier is a good thing. Talk about your values if you want to sell minivans, right? And then talk about your value. What's your value? Your value is the extent to which you can be a contributing factor in solving other people's problems. How can you help? If you can't help, you got no value. So don't say, well, how do I sell more? Say, well, how can I help more? How can I solve more people's problems? And talk about that. Talk more about that. Get really, really good at talking about how you can help people solve their problems and expressing your values so people know who you are and what you believe. Then they can know you, they can like you, they can trust you, and ultimately they will buy from you. All right, I hope that helps. I hope that helps you understand how to sell more by selling less. If you have enjoyed this video, I would love it, again, if you would give me a like. It helps me in the algorithm get this video out to more people, get these messages out to more people. I do believe that by talking about things like how to sell more, by selling less, by communicating more about values and about value, we are actually, in a small way, doing our part to make this world a better place. As maybe cheesy as that sounds, I believe it. It's the reason I'm able to do so much of it. So again, if you'd like to support me on that mission, not only like the video, maybe subscribe to this channel, keep getting the value that I have to share with you in the rest of these videos, and leave me a comment. Let me know about this. Like, are you in sales? Does this work? Have you tried it? Are you gonna try it? Do you have questions about it? Are you wanting to try it, but you're scared to try it? Are you wanting to try it, but you're afraid your boss is gonna get mad? Need language on how to convince your boss that this is actually a better way to sell than just coming off like a salesperson? Anything, let me have it in the comments below. I love the conversation. And then I invite you to go to millionairesecrets.com. You can subscribe to my podcast. You can download my free ebook called The Millionaire Shortcut and discover the fastest way to become a millionaire in the new digital economy. Again, millionairesecrets.com. I'd also invite you to join my free Facebook group, which is called Entre Nation, E-N-T-R-E Nation. And I just appreciate your time so much that I've had this opportunity to share with you. And I'll look forward to hopefully seeing you on another video. Take care.